Hello everyone, welcome back to Grey Brick Creations. My name is Michaela and today I'm going to be making a embroidered picture frame that has some pink and gold flowers on it along with some green leaves. So come along to watch my process for making this picture frame. In the past, for some of my embroidery projects, I have used designs that other people have come up with, but for this specific project I actually drew my own design. Here you can see me drawing that up. I wanted to go for some long flowy leaves and then some tulip-like flowers, also these cute little leaves on the flowers. I drew this up in Procreate and you can just see my process for that here. After drawing this up in Procreate, I got it onto Microsoft Word just to print out on my printer. Here you can see that printing out with my little helper. The previous one I had printed was a little bit too small, so I printed this one a little bit bigger. And now I'm going to get my fabric out to do the actual embroidery on. I wanted the background for this piece to be really clean, so I went ahead and I picked a white fabric to embroider on versus the black or dark blue fabric that I've done before. After getting the fabric cut out, the next step for me is going to be to trace the pattern onto the fabric. I like to use these friction pens. They're super nice because when you heat them up, the ink actually disappears. So when I'm done with the project, I can just use a blow dryer to remove the pattern from behind my stitches. The best way that I could think to trace this onto the fabric was to put it on my kitchen window and trace it on. Basically pretty much after I finished doing this, I went on Amazon and bought a light table so that I could do this like at my desk instead of on the window. It did work doing it on the window, but I figure if I'm going to be doing more of these projects in the future, then I need something that's a little bit easier to work with. If you're interested in what light table I purchased, you can check that out in the link below in the description of the video. If you've watched my other videos before, you know that my cats are constantly trying to, help me with my projects. And here you can see Monty is very upset that there is a door between me and him. He doesn't know how to help me if he can't get to me. Something else to mention when I'm tracing these patterns onto the fabric, I actually put them in the hoop backwards so that the fabric is flat on whatever surface I'm tracing onto. So once I get the pattern on there, I just pull it out of the hoop and basically flip it around so that it's the correct way in the hoop. Just getting this one all tightened up so I can get to stitching. One of my favorite parts of the embroidery process is picking out colors. I've noticed on a lot of my projects lately I've kind of been doing the same colors, like the gold, the kind of pinkish purple, or I guess like pinkish red color, and then green, like a dark green and a light green. So yeah, I just went ahead and picked those same colors again this time. I have a picture in mind that I'm going to use, and I think these colors are going to go really good with that picture. I decided to start this project at the bottom flower section, as you can see here on that little vine to the left of the bottommost flower, and I just started with a stem stitch. After finishing up the stem on this vine, I went ahead and used a lazy daisy stitch to embroider the leaves on. For this whole portion of the project, I am using all 6 strands of floss on that dark green floss color. After finishing up those vines on the side, I wanted to start on the first flower. For the top section of the flower, which is going to be kind of showing like the back of the petals, I decided to do that dark mauve color, and I'm just doing this with a satin stitch. When I do these stitches, I like to stitch in a few stitches spaced apart at first to create like a guideline for me, and then I went ahead and filled everything else in. Here you can see I also finished up the leaves. For the bottom dark green leaves, I was using a fly stitch, and then for the light green and dark green leaves, I was using a fishbone stitch. I've now flipped this piece over and I'm working on the other flower. Here I'm just doing a back stitch for this stem. I like to change it up a little bit so that not every single stitch is exactly the same. I think it adds a little bit more variety to the piece. Here again, I'm also just using that lazy daisy stitch to create these leaves on this stem, and I did the same exact thing on the flower above this one. As I talked about a little bit before, when I do these satin stitches, I like to add in these, I guess you could call them like guide stitches, so that I make sure I'm following the direction throughout the stitch. Sometimes when you get these really long satin stitches, they can get a little wonky, and that can make your pattern look weird if all of a sudden your angle isn't correct on your stitches. Now that I'm done with these guide stitches, I'm going to go ahead and fill in between these stitches so that it looks like one continuous satin stitch. For all the flower pieces on this specific project, I did go ahead and use 3 strands of floss. I just felt like 6 was a little too thick, and the 3 let me add a little bit more detail to these flowers here. Here you can see I'm filling in the center of the flower, again using those guide stitches and then coming back through and filling in between them. I did use the lighter pink color on the middle of this flower. Here you can see I have both the top and bottom flower sections done. So now it's time to get started on the sides. I'm really happy with how this is turning out so far. I do have these little vines on the top of the side sections, so I'm just going to go ahead and start with those. Once again, I'm using a stem stitch for this, very similar to the stems that I did on the first 2 flower pieces. The next section that I'm going to stitch in is this leaf. For this leaf and then some of the leaves down in the other flower sections, I actually used 2 different colors of floss. This is the first time I tried this out, and I really love how it turned out. I basically used the dark green on one side and the light green on the other side. Here you can see more of a close-up of how I did that. I just had 2 needles with 2 strands of floss on them at the same time, and I just went back and forth stitching these. I did run into a few issues with the flosses getting tangled underneath a couple times, but after I got my process worked out, it started to go pretty fast. Here you can see I have both of those leaves done with the light green and the dark green. In the multicolor leaves, I did the larger leaves on the outside, again with a fly stitch. I did these in the light green color versus the dark green color that I used on the first two flower sections. Now that I'm done with all the leaves, I'm going to wrap up the last few sections of stems I have here, along with the leaves on the stems. These are pretty satisfying to watch, and honestly, they go pretty fast when I'm stitching them too. After wrapping up the stems and leaves on the one side, I went ahead and stitched in the light yellow section of the flower. On the previous flower sections, I did do the dark section on top first. Honestly, I don't think it really matters which section gets stitched in first. They both turned out pretty good, so I just kind of went with what I was feeling, and on these I started with the light section and then stitched in the dark section afterwards. Here you can see the whole left hand section of this piece is complete. Now I just need to wrap up the stems and flowers on the right hand side. I wanted to show you guys my process for stitching in the light yellow color. Honestly, I think the satin stitches are some of the most satisfying to watch when I'm watching my videos back. Once again, Monty is here to help, or I'm not sure, bite my string as I try to stitch through the piece. He's cute, but he is a little bit of a pain in the butt when I'm trying to get these projects done. Now I'm just filling in these last few dark sections on these flowers on the right hand side. I did the tops of the flowers, and now I'm just stitching in the bottom section. Once I have the bottom section all wrapped up, the last thing I need to stitch in is the I guess you would call them like supports for the actual picture. I'm just going to put these 4 diagonal stitches in, and then that is what is going to hold in the 4 corners of my picture. Alright, here you can see the final finished product. I still need to remove my pattern from the back of it with the pen. I also needed to finish up the back. Here you can see the back is all finished up, and now I'm going to just slide my picture right in there. I'm so happy with how this turned out. Look how cute that all looks put together. I'm so excited to be able to show you guys my finished product for this piece. It turned out so good. It's like a little picture frame with the embroidery flowers around the edges. I really love how it turned out. I hope you all enjoyed watching. Come back again for the next video.